Proper sock coordination is essential for creating visual interest in your lower half. But where do you start out after years of pairing gym socks with sneakers? You start here. You've probably been told time and time again that your socks, shoes, and pants should match or harmonize. But what does that mean? If you're in any doubt, you're in the right place. And even if you think you know, stick around. It never hurts to review the fundamentals. First, we'll cover the 3 most important concepts of getting your socks, shoes, and trousers to look great together. The most surprising? Don't match your socks to your shoes. Instead, match them to your trousers. Employing similar colors between shoes and socks can lead to muddy transitions that spoil the effect of both items. Conversely, over-contrasting socks and shoes often looks jarring, but by matching your socks to your trousers, you create a cohesive bridge between the fabric components of your ensemble. This will naturally set off your shoes because of the textural transition from cloth to usually leather. Next, be sure to draw from your larger color palette. Your lower half should harmonize with your upper. So either introduce a color that appears in your upper half, drawn from the color of your trousers, jacket, an accessory like a pocket square, a boutonniere, a shirt color, or even your lining color, or employ a color that complements such a color. Don't worry, we'll explain that concept in more detail briefly. Finally, avoid monochromatic looks unless you're in formal attire. It's boring to have your black shoes, black socks, and black trousers all look the same. Even if you select a vibrant tone, it ends up looking affected and dated. To achieve a similar look that is more memorable and versatile, check out Preston's guide on creating tonal, not monochromatic ensembles. With these principles in mind, let's get into some details. What idea came up the most in the last section? Color. Color is one of the simplest but most impressive ways to craft memorable sock, shoe, and trouser combinations, because colors can harmonize in a variety of visually impressive ways. This concept is explained in far greater detail in our guide on how to employ the color wheel in menswear. But here's a summation of the essential points. Colors that appear visually pleasing together tend to have one of the 3 following relationships. Complementary colors have the strongest possible contrast. When side by side, they help each other pop in an almost universally pleasing way. These include iconic pairings like orange and blue. Go Preston! Or red and green. Merry Christmas! Having discussed opposite colors, let's turn to shades of the same color, often called tonal colors. In general, colors will appear visually pleasing when paired with lighter or darker tones of themselves. Such pairings of socks and trousers might not be the most stimulating, but they're generally easy to do well and have a more formal appearance, suited to most occasions. Constituent colors are colors that constitute or make up each other. You may remember that all colors are combinations of the primary colors red, yellow, and blue, or secondary colors made from those 3 colors. Red and blue make purple, and purple and yellow make mauve. We'll note that primary colors, because of their capacity to be blended well with other colors, tend to look lovely together. Think about iconic red and blue, or striking blue and yellow. Colors that constitute each other are also natural matches, because there is a natural element in each one shared by its constituent parts. Why do green and yellow look so well together? Because of the yellow, when combined with blue, that makes that green. To take the greatest advantage of color pairing options, we suggest always favoring socks that have at least 2 colors. Your trousers don't have to pair with both colors. So long as they harmonize with one, the other becomes essentially a bonus color. This can be picked up elsewhere in the outfit or provide unexpected visual interest. How are multiple colors most often introduced into socks? Through our next topic, patterns. Unlike solid socks that often appear overly bold and drab, pattern socks allow for more subtle pairing potential. For ensembles that appear more nuanced and memorable, there are dozens of different patterns in menswear. But rather than go through them all, in this guide we'll run down how patterns interact with solids and themselves. The simplest way to match socks and trousers is by contrasting a solid with a pattern. The pattern is naturally distinct from the solid, establishing a firm delineation even between similar shades. Your next easiest approach is to pair solids with solids, which is to say technically pairing the absence of pattern with the absence of pattern. In such cases, rely on what you learned about color to avoid combinations that lack sufficient differentiation and would appear muddy, or as so jarring as to be distracting. Contrary to popular belief, it is possible to pair patterns with patterns, and it is relatively easy to do so if you keep one thing in mind. Avoid visually muddy patterns. Like overly similar colors, overly similar patterns get lost with each other. This is achieved most easily by combining two different patterns. Despite their similarity in color, there is no difference between these striped trousers and these macro pattern socks. But the same type of pattern can be employed in both socks and trousers, provided that the two can be distinguished. Here, our broader chalk stripe sets off nicely against a narrower stripe. Because of the variation in the stripe form and width, oftentimes the more similar the patterns appear, the more formal the effect. And the more different the patterns appear, the more casual. When it comes to pairing shoes and socks, texture will function very similar to patterns. When socks and trousers have different textures, even if they're similar in color, there will be a clear and visually pleasing distinction. For socks and trousers and similar textures, you'll want to rely on color and or pattern to break things up, unless you like people to think you're wearing tights. I always assumed the Joker was wearing spats. Employing textural differentiation is most applicable in seasonal or casual ensembles, as most year-round formal dress socks are made from relatively smooth cotton, so be sure to take advantage of textural variations in those occasions and seasons when it is most appropriate. So before we move on to some examples on how to pair socks with trousers, I wanted to incorporate what I decided to do today as an example as well. I'm wearing a navy pinstripe suit with blue and yellow shadow stripe socks from Fort Belvedere and brown dress shoes and a striped shirt and a matching vest for the suit as well too. Stripes all day. So it's got a lot of fun, and the difference in variations of the width of the stripe from my pants to the socks, I think definitely keeps the action plan of keeping things somewhat formal, which I enjoy, but I love the pop of yellow that's on the sock. Pairing that off with a really loud pocket square from Fort Belvedere as well too, with a really bright orange color. And then for the fragrance, and keeping with the blue theme, blue suede shoes from Roberto Ugolini. Now let's combine what we've learned by showing some examples of pairing socks and trousers. Let's begin with trousers as our starting point, because blue is so common in menswear. Blue trousers will pair with almost any socks. We'll start with a simple tonal pairing of dark blue trousers with mid and light blue two-tone socks. As mentioned, this is a pretty sedate union, which on more formal occasions is ideal. So we can simply add a pair of brown shoes with a reddish tone that sets off the blue because both are primary colors. But a pair of light brown monk straps with the same blue tone adds visual pop to tonal socks and pants. Visual interest is also created with complementary pairs. We'll add blue and orange socks to set off the blue pants and a cognac loafer to pick up the warm tones in the orange. Now let's consider gray trousers. Again, we'll start with a simple tonal pairing. These charcoal trousers blend well with the gray-blue and the socks, which, because they are two-tone, also introduced Prussian blue, which in turn sets off beautifully with these oxblood Oxfords. Now what if we want something more casual? We'll start with light gray trousers, paired with gray and pink socks. The gray for the tonal transition, and the pink for visual interest. And for further pop, high contrast black shoes. Since black is a constituent color of gray, let's try an even more complicated pairing. Here we'll add charcoal and orange socks with gray pants. Rather than settling on brown shoes with a red cast to emphasize the orange, let's try olive shoes. Olive shoes with gray and orange? Yes, because the grain that constitutes olive complements the red that constitutes orange. And that muted look in the olive pairs so well with the gray, while both are given vibrancy by the orange. Khaki is a relatively casual color in menswear, so you can have a lot of fun pairing khaki trousers with socks and shoes. Khaki is an earth tone, so it will naturally harmonize with any brown tones. So for socks, we'll start with an earth tone gray with burgundy stripes for added warmth. There's a little red in these Oxfords, which establishes a great tonal connection with the burgundy in the socks. Now let's try lighter brown shoes, like this pair of woven detail derbies. The derbies have a pale cognac cast to them, and with the addition of red, makes pairing with green socks a breeze. Now finally, for a fun casual look, we'll tonally transition khaki pants into the khaki stripes of these navy socks, with light tobacco loafers, whose earth tones go with the khakis, and yellow tones with the blue because they are both primary colors. Now what if socks are your starting point? We'll start with a pair of dark and royal blue socks. To showcase the versatility of shades of blue, here the socks are set off against charcoal trousers, because the royal blue has the same light tones as the modded charcoal. Dark brown shoes unite both elements, and dark brown is an earth tone like gray, and blue is a constituent of brown. Here, the same socks pair with all brown elements, although there's a strong tonal difference between the lighter brown herringbone and the darker brown pebbled loafers. Finally, for unexpected visual interest, we'll take a sedate tonal pairing of these socks with blue trousers, but this time with yellow monk straps, emphasizing the primary color relationship between blue and yellow. How about some socks that feature bold red? These burgundy and light gray socks are much more versatile than you might think. Now first, let's showcase a casual pairing, in which the gray elements pair with the stone trousers, and the burgundy with the red oxblood and the derbies. Darker colors, with taupe trousers and black shoes, create a formal atmosphere that is still memorable because of the red, with the gray bridging the gap between the black, which is one of gray's constituent colors, and the taupe, which is another earth tone. Now for vibrancy, compare the burgundy red with the fellow primary color blue, while its reddish tones sets off the light cognac tones of the shoes. The gray is now just a grounding color. To close, let's consider a color we've only touched on, brown. As an earth tone, it pairs well with most colors, but it needs variety to avoid appearing dull. In this example, brown socks are highlighted by green and cream clocks. We'll start with the tonal pairing, in which the shoes, socks, and trousers are all shades of brown. But because there is sufficient contrast between each element, the look doesn't appear muddy. Now we can brighten things up with a snazzy pair of shoes, but fundamentally, we're still working with tones, although the cream inserts in the shoes also highlight the cream clocks. Let's conclude by leaning into that tonal frame of mind, with this pairing of taupe suede derbies and trousers. Here, there's just enough contrast to keep things interesting, which is helped by the blue grid in the trousers and teal shoelaces. But with that, we're getting out of beginner territory and into advanced techniques. Interested in a follow-up to this video geared toward experts? Let us know in the comments. Now with the tips and examples in this video, you'll have mastered the pairing of socks, trousers, and shoes. And for even more information, download our ebook. We also want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments your secrets for the best effortless lower half coordination. Now to check out more amazing accessories and many of the other sock options that we have at Fort Belvedere, please check out the Fort Belvedere shop here.